It's been a difficult month. I haven't put anything on this channel, in about a month. There's something that's been on the channel that was recorded before all this happens. But anyway, there's a story. As many of you might know, I've been trying to lose weight. One thing that's happened with me and the GLP-1s since I started taking them is, I get to the 7.5 milligram dosage, and my body doesn't like it. I ate too much pizza on Mother's Day, and that made me sick, and then I stayed sick for the next 4 or 5 days, and then I felt like I was getting better, and then something changed with the sick in just the span of a few hours, and I my wife was already gone. I had my 4-year-old here with me, and I asked Claude, I was like, "Hey, what should I do?" And Claude said, "Given your symptoms," I was like, my arms were tingling, I was flop sweating, I had, like, gas pain real bad around my belt line or so, diarrhea, the whole thing, and he was like, "Call 911." So I did, and 911 came. My grandson, if you've ever been in a position where a 4-year-old has to do something very adult, um, it is both a very, sad thing, but also a very proud thing. Like, my bedroom's on the lower level, and he had to go upstairs and unlock the door and let the EMTs in, and they came down, and then they put me on the thing, and then they put me in the ambulance, and my wife came home and got my boy, and then I went to the ER. Never ridden in an ambulance for myself. I've never been hospitalized other than, like, emergency room visits, but this time turned out different. So I got there, generally, like, they put some fluids in you, they try and help you just get rehydrated and feeling better and all that kinda stuff, but it wasn't working. They took me for a CT scan, brought me back. When I got back, I still just was having that really bad sort of feeling and, and just, like, puked everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but I all of a sudden, I had to throw up, and my wife grabbed one of the bags, those plastic bags with the drawstrings that say for, like, for, for your personal items. So I used that, and then I felt a lot better, and then 2 minutes later, the ER doctor came in, and he looked different. I could tell something wasn't right just by the look on his face. And he was like, "Yeah, something is wrong with your CT scan." And I thought at first he meant like something is wrong, like we have to go do it again. But no, he meant something was wrong. Like he said, they called before they were finished reading the scan to say that this was there. And so we're going to have to do something. I was just like, and he said, "You have some air bubbles, gas bubbles, something inside of your stomach wall and some outside, and that's not a good thing. So we're gonna have to d do some." Like, at first I thought, "Well, I just got sick. Maybe there was, like, pressure in there because I was not feeling good," and then it all came out. He's like, "No, no, I've never seen this before. Surgeon's gonna come and talk to you about it." So then a very nice surgeon, which is, trust me, an oxymoron, a very nice surgeon, very calm, very nice bedside manner, came and talked to me about the fact that this could mean anything from I get better, it resolves itself, to, um, they have to remove part of my stomach and things would be different from then on out, to potentially dead. And I was, I don't know if you've ever been told that, like, completely out of unexpected blue, that you could be, in some short amount of time, dead. But that was what happened, and I was like, "So what are handicapped this for me, like, what are my chances?" And she says, "Well, most people, it just resolves itself and it gets better. But there's the potential for necrosis in there and maybe some other things, and if there is, then there could be sepsis, which would lead to septicemia, and all kinds of stuff that's not good." I mean, necrosis in your stomach doesn't sound like something you want. Uh, so she was like, We might do an endoscopy. We're gonna wait. If there's a perforation, we don't wanna risk, like, tearing anything." Still, I was just kind of, "Okay, so, like, I know you can't be 100% anything, but, um, give me a ballpark here. Like, what are the chances that like, die?" And she said, "Well, you're probably, like 80% you're probably gonna be okay." I found out after I got out of the hospital and visited with my primary care doctor that the chances were not 80% I would be okay. The reality of it was, statistically, 60% I was gonna be okay, and 40% I was not. And that's dangerously close to 50-50, which is dangerously close to a coin flip. As soon as she left, they another doctor came in and said, "I'm taking you for an endoscopy." And I was like, "Well, I just heard that we might do one and we might not." And she said, "Well, they called me and I'm going to be busy tomorrow. And then today's the only, like, right now is the only time I can do it. It's better to do it than to be safe." And they give this to you like it's a choice. Like, well, you could do it or you could not do it. Maybe they're trained to do this, but honestly, like, if I need it, you tell me I need it, and there are risks, but you'll have to take them. I went and I got the endoscopy. The nurses came in and they got me off the ER bed and put me onto the little motorized gurney that took me to the elevator and took me up to the endoscopy chamber where an anesthesiologist, um, told me he was gonna put me to sleep, and there were other people in there, and they all introduced themselves, and they all said, "Hey, this is Jason," and then I was asleep. I woke up in the ICU, uh, at some period of time later, and I didn't know what was going on. There was no doctor there, my wife was there. Nurses were coming in and out. In the ICU, they give you pretty close watch with the nurses, and I found that the nurses were my lifeline to information as much as I could possibly get, because I spent a lot of time in the hospital not knowing, really very much about what was going on. So, the nurses said the endoscopy when it happened, and now you're gonna be here, and we're gonna keep a close eye on you. Doctor will come in and explain a little bit more to you later on. Surgeons are gonna talk to you again, etcetera, etcetera, etcetera. And within a short period of time, the surgeons were there, and they pulled up the endoscopy, and there was, in fact, a big black patch on the back of my stomach wall, which wasn't good. I mean, necrosis means dead. And if there's a portion of my stomach wall that is dead, my questions are like, well, does it grow back or not? And they were like, "We don't know, but here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put an NG tube down your nose into your stomach. We're gonna suck all the stuff that's in your stomach out over the course of a couple of days, and we're gonna create an environment where your stomach can heal. And, then then we'll see what happens." And that was it. "We'll see what happens" was the mode of care. and I don't know, the stomach seems like a special part of your body where lots of things happen, and it's not necessarily, like, a given that you can figure out what's going on. You break your leg, and you see that the leg is broken in the X-ray, and you know what you need to do, but you see necrosis in a in bubbles in your stomach wall in a CT scan, and you wait and see what happens. They took me for another CT scan later on, like 5 o'clock that evening after I'd laid there and sort of pondered my mortality. Um, and then they brought me back to the room. And of course, I saw no more doctors uh, for the rest of that day. Nurses changed. The new nurse came in. I was like, "Hey, did you happen to hear anything about that last CT scan I heard?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, I think they said it was pretty good, and that looked like everything was clearing up. They didn't see the gas bubbles." Uh, why they wouldn't come and tell me this, I don't know. Now, I worked at a medical school. I worked with doctors who were teachers. I spent time in the hospital. I am familiar with the foibles of medicine, but not knowing anything and not having anybody, like, keeping me up to speed on what was going on was a frustrating thing to deal with. And the NG tube was also weird. First tried, like, I don't know what gauge it was, and it wouldn't go in this one. And then they tried to get it through this one, and then it got, like, to the back of my like, nose, almost out of the nose, and, like, there was crackling, inside, like, the cartilage or whatever was like it was like Rice Krispies kinda crackling. They then tried another one, put that in, it went in, sucked out gross looking stuff for the next couple of days. The next morning, I was still in the ICU. They're like, "We talked overnight, called the University of Iowa. They are gonna try and get a bed for you because if anything does go wrong, that's where you need to be, and if they have a bed for you, then you can go there, and you'll be closer to, emergency surgery measures if necessary." And the weird thing was that this whole time, after I got sick in the ER, after I did the first CT scan, I felt fine. I felt I felt fine. I was feeling much better on the Wednesday before this, and, hadn't been really feeling all that sick, had a normal-ish day, and so I thought, "Tomorrow I will be better, and then I will go on with my life." But instead, I ended up in the hospital. But after that bout with the personal belongings bag, I felt fine, and I continued to feel fine. If I was at home, I would be like, "Oh, okay, I feel better. I can do some light work." They kept me in the ICU, but they're like, "You're getting better. You're doing better. All the blood work is better, and everything's looking better, and the CT scan was better, and you don't need ICU level care, so we're gonna move you to a room because we haven't heard from the hospital down at the university." And so they moved me into this room. It was nice. It had a big window. It had its own bathroom. It it was sort of like a clinical-y hotel room. And as soon as I got in there and got settled, they came and they're like, "University of Iowa has a bed for you, and they're gonna come and get you." So within a few minutes, there were two there were 2 EMT guys there with a gurney to take me to an ambulance to drive me 45 minutes down the road to Iowa City, where I would then be put in a bed in the hospital. The younger of the 2 EMTs had, like, the big, like, firefighter handlebar style mustache, and I still can't understand why a mustache has become a fashion thing again, because they were ugly the last time they were popular, and they're still gross. I know I have a beard, but for some reason, the beard is not as gross to me. But I digress. When I got to the university, they put me in a room with another older guy. They kinda like, you know how they had the curtains, and the curtain there was, like, a bigger part of the room that the other guy was in, and then there was, like, a corner with a bed in it, and that's where I was. Anyway, I went to sleep. I woke up the next day. This is day 3 in the hospital. A group of doctors comes to me, and they say, "You seem to be doing better. You probably didn't have to come here." Um, and so, "Would you like the NG tube taken out of your nose?" And I was like, "Yes, please." So they did, and they said, "Today, you can order off of the clear liquids menu, and if tomorrow you then order something off of the real food menu and it stays down, you can go home." And I found out that Jolly Ranchers are on the clear liquids menu, as is coffee, black, Jello, of course, and Italian ice. I and then the next morning, I woke up and, like, I coulda had pancakes or whatever, like, it wasn't a full menu, but I could get sausage, like, all of these things seemed like a bad idea, but I was like, "Man, I haven't eaten any food in 4 days." So so I wanna order, like, a pancake or something, and I'm on the phone with my wife, and she says, "No, no, order a scrambled egg and some toast." And I was like, "Okay." My wife used to be a clinical nutritionist. She has a master's degree in nutrition, and, so sometimes I listen to her when she tells me, to do things. So I ate the scrambled egg, and I drank the coffee, and I think I had some juice, and the toast was, like, soggy, but I ate that and felt fine. After the NG tube was out, and then they were taking me off the antibiotics and everything, I didn't have this, like, giant, like, pole attached to me that I had to drag everywhere. So once they took all that stuff out around noontime, I I chased everybody I could think of to chase to see if I could get the hell out of there. Finally, around 3 o'clock, I did. And I was relieved to know that I was most likely okay. I still don't know everything about what happened. Um, Gastritis, I think, duodenitis. Um, yeah, plus also some gastroparesis and some other things, and there's something weird with the shunt in my liver that could be related or maybe not I really don't know, and I wish I could tell you that, like, I had some sort of come to Jesus moment, um, but I didn't. I did have that moment where it's like, "What the heck have I been doing with myself?" There are things that I do that I believe are more important than YouTube, um, that I haven't done. Uh, Writing and music-wise, I have not released anything to the public news since 2011, and YouTube has taken up most of my time, and I'd hoped that I would be able to find a balance, never found a balance. So, I've I've reinvigorated my desire to pay attention to those things because 'cause they're important to me. But other than being scared shitless very quickly and then slowly feeling more and more relieved. I mean, I think your brain and your body goes into this, like, state where it's like, you suddenly have to kind of readjust your mindset, and it does it on its own. Like, first, death is not anything you're thinking about, and then once they say maybe, then you kinda start to you start to recalibrate. I did lose 50 pounds, okay, over the since last year. I was 285 pounds middle of last year, and middle of this year, I'm around 235. 30 of that was when I was very sick 2 different times, but if there's a silver lining, maybe that's it. Because now I can walk and not hurt my knee, and generally, I just feel better. But having maybe it's hyperbolic to call it a near-death experience, but having an experience like that where death suddenly sits down at the table and you're playing a nice hand of Texas Hold'em with death and, other bad possible outcomes. Um, I wish that I could say like, "Oh, man, now I'm enlightened," but I'm just more aware that shit happens and you don't expect it. And at 54, I still have more to figure out and do than I anticipated or than I was really giving giving credence to. So this is what I'm going to call the show, Painfully Honest, the show. Talking like this is probably what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I don't know what I'm going to do, but you'll see it if you come back. I'll be here because I'm not dead. And we'll just take it from there. How's that sound?